Greetings, everyone. My name's Doug. Um, I wanted to share some of my personal experiences on the Mucusless Diet Healing System transition. Um, Lately, I've just been writing down some of my experiences pertaining to the Mucusless Diet Healing System and wanted to share some of them. I always find them pretty insightful when I hear about other people's personal experiences above and beyond just the information found in Arnold Ehret's text or other facets of literature. And so I thought I'd share some stuff with you guys. It is Thanksgiving, about 40 some odd hours into a fast, um, which feels good. Just doing some green juice and let's see here, doing some lemon water too. But yeah, anyways, so over the past couple weeks, I kind of accumulated some topics that I just wanted to briefly touch on. I can't really share too much intellectual knowledge just because I'm too new to the system to really have deep insight. So more so, I feel like I can really only share personal experience. But yeah, so the first one I wanted to talk about was a conversation I had about the Mucusless Diet Healing System with four other people in the room. For the first time, I actually felt comfortable explaining the theory of vitality equals power minus obstruction, um, and just had an extremely rational conversation with these four people uh, to the point where they were pretty quiet and even acknowledged how much sense um, the healing system made, yet they couldn't really fathom it. Like they couldn't really comprehend it, which is totally reasonable because it's, I mean, a completely different paradigm, and it was just an awesome feeling comfortable with myself when able to explain it. Um, and I was able to give personal examples such as, you know, where does a gorilla get his protein? Um, the idea of animals naturally fasting when in a state of illness or having any issues. And then I was able to share some of my personal experiences with fasting, higher energy levels, um, and so that was really phenomenal for me because the last few times I've tried to talk to people, I've definitely struggled with explaining it in a very rational, understandable manner. Um, I have been getting kind of caught up and stumbling upon my words, and um, there have been questions I haven't really had an answer to as far as how the Mucusless Diet Healing System um, sees certain aspects. Um, and so that just, excuse me, that just makes me think about the importance of really understanding the information and having a good foundation of knowledge um, to build on those experiences. But it is important if you are going to talk to people about it that you explain it in a rational, understandable manner because I think that's how people are really going to um, get the information and um, maybe give them a better ability to think about practicing the healing system for themselves. Um, so let's see, over the last 10, 11, 12 days, um, I've been doing some fasting mucusless phases. I think maybe like a week and a half ago, I did a 4-day juice fast, which I think I talked to you guys about. And then um, with my transition out of the fast, I did about 5 days of mucusless eating, consisting of apples in the early afternoon, and then I would finish it with like a huge salad, and then maybe a cooked vegetable of sorts, such as broccoli, acorn squash, but not really like overdoing it on the baked vegetables. Uh, More so like doubling up in my salads, the size of them. And I like quinoa and other ancient grains. And so I usually use those as like a mucus lean option. Um, I always perceived that the sprouted ancient grains, or like what would actually be seeds, would be less harsh on our digestive system, and be a lot easier to assimilate. I know Dr. Sabi and other people express the benefits of these sprouted ancient grains, but I had a really interesting experience with them. So my goal when doing this juice fast and this 5 days of mucusless eating was to transition away from nuts and oils, such as cooking with olive oil, coconut oil, and just different types of fatty oils. I have a hard time with not overeating nuts, and so I figured it would probably be wise to try to transition away from them. But here's kind of what I found. So after about 5 days of eating mucusless, I decided to go for some quinoa with walnuts, and then it even had some, or not walnuts, but it had quinoa, some raisins, and then I put a few big scoops of peanut butter in there, just because I was having some cravings. Ate a little bit more than I probably should have, um, but I thought I was doing my self-justice because I didn't have any fatty oils or nuts in it. But what I noticed the next morning was that I had dry, flaky skin around my eyebrows and my forehead, and my eye sockets literally hurt. Like, it brought me pain to touch my eyes, and it felt almost as if I'd been punched in the face. Like I literally had soreness around my face, which was really odd. And then I also felt extremely dehydrated, and drinking water did not satiate or alleviate the feeling of dehydration, which goes to show that, does water really hydrate us, or is it a universal solvent, as we learn in pretty much every science class known to man? So yeah, I had initially planned on transitioning away from nuts and oils, but for me, I realized that it's more important to listen to our physiology, our actual body, and it's kind of not force the transition, but to be more conscious of our body during the transition. Because what I personally realized from this planned transition was that I am not ready to come off eating nuts, but on the other hand, my body is ready to come off eating the ancient grains, such as the forbidden rice, the quinoa, and then I also want to stay away from peanut butter as well, because peanut butter always has a much more a much harsher impact on my system than, say, like traditional nut butter, like almond butter, for example, just because peanuts are legumes, and so I think they are of a higher mucus forming nature. So that's what it kind of told me, was that I need to come off grains first, and just essentially listen to my body, just because nuts don't have those same effect, even if I eat a few too many of them. So, But yeah, overall, I just want to state the importance of listening to your body and being conscious during the transition, uh, because it's not something you want to force or speed up per se. Um, and on that same note, um, the last week or so, I've done a couple 24-hour fasts, and not really because they were planned, just because I had woken up the next morning and not had hunger pains or decreased energy, and I just naturally progressed through my day as if it was a regular day, yet I was fasting, which is pretty new to me. Um, and I mean, I even went to the gym. I had a hour long yoga class. I mean, I worked. Um, I was actually up from 9 a.m. till 4 a.m. the next day because I work a knock shift, and on top of that, I mean, I did a full brake job on my car. Um, Crazy high levels of vitality while just consuming water with maybe a lemon squeezed in it, and then in the evening, um, I might have like some fresh carrot juice because I'm trying to hit the vegetable juices a little bit more so, uh, just to kind of get a better feel as to how they act in my body. Because when I started the transition, I I lean more towards the fruit fasting and the fruit juices, and don't think I spend as much time with the green juices as as I should have. So I'm kind of going back and checking those out and seeing how they do. Um, when I did these couple 24-hour, 36-hour fasts, I noticed that I had a hard time sleeping the normal amount. So I'm used to sleeping maybe 9 hours or so a night, and when I fast or get into these higher level mucusless states, I noticed that I might only sleep 3 or 4 hours a night, and be up at like 2 in the morning and not be able to fall back asleep, but not really having that crash throughout the day, or feeling as though I have a lack of energy. Um, and I was worried at first, thinking that I was gonna just destroy my body and not be coherent throughout my daily activities, but I've kind of just decided to roll with it and let it naturally happen. Um, there was actually a period where I slept probably 4 hours in like 2.5 days, but wasn't in a fog or didn't have like much of a decreased sense of energy. And so once again, for me, that kind of falls back on just listening to my body. And right now in this stage of the transition, I'm just learning so much. And so for me, and just being conscious of how my body reacts to certain foods and certain periods of like mucusless or fasting or juice fasting or this or that. And so um, I just want to state the importance of um, keeping a log, or like really understand how your body changes in its physiology through the transition, and not being scared to kind of let go of the this the norms of what is healthy and what is not, as far as how much sleep we need, the foods we eat, um, what we do while we're fasting. For example, um, for me personally, I like to exercise while I fast. I don't overdo it. I mean, I'm not gonna like go, try to lift 300 pounds, bench press or something. I'll do some yoga. I'll do some stretches. I'll do just light, just do like a light workout that doesn't overtax my body. Um, because sometimes I'll even find myself having increased energy levels after, say, like an hour of my yoga practice. Um, so yeah, as far as the sleeping goes, I wanted to say that this brought up the question to me: do we need as much sleep as we're told, or are our bodies more so designed to rest and maintain a level of consciousness? Um, I know Arnold Ehret always talks about looking to nature, and so I think I would like to look and see, like, what are animals really doing when they sleep? Are they in a state of consciousness still? Um, and even Brother Air talks about laying down and resting his body, or I should say, Professor Spiro. He talks about Brother Air doing that. And I mean, are we really meant to sleep, or are we really meant to rest our bodies? Um, and then a couple physical changes that I've noticed in the recent past few weeks is enhanced eyesight and the growth of my hair. For example, I was sitting in my philosophy class, and there were 3 lines um, with different size of text, and he asked if anybody could read the top line, and probably half the class could, and the next line down was smaller, and the next line down was even smaller than that. And as he was walking up the board to say, "I'm sure you guys can't read this, but let me tell you what it says," and before he even walked up, I asked I asked him a question in response to reading that statement, and he just spun around. He was just like, "You can read that? Holy cow!" And he looked around. He's like, "Can anybody else read that?" And apparently it was phenomenal, or some spectacular ability that I had. But I didn't even say that I could actually stand up and scoot twice the distance back and still read it, which was kind of startling to me. I've always had good vision, but it's been dramatically better, especially during states of fasting. I mean, kind of, like, really, really um, enhanced in a rather short period of time. Um, so if anybody has issues with eyesight, or wants to improve their vision, um, this healing system might have similar results for them as well. But everybody's different, and they just have to experience it for themselves. Um, and another one was the growth of my beard. It's not particularly, you know, big per se, but I shaved maybe a week ago, and I've always had such thin, soft hairs for facial hair that was just like really wispy and just really light. And the past few months since I've really got into, or actually the past month or so since I've really got into the cleansing and the fasts, and just maintaining a stricter regimen with the transition, um, my beard's like twice as thick. The hairs are just incredibly coarse, incredibly thick. Like, it feels as though like twice as thick, just really coming in thick and burly. And then my hair has gotten to the point where it's just like almost solid. I mean, I just um, don't have like the wispy um, light hair like I used to. It's becoming really thick, and I just brushed it. It's not tangled up or dirty by any means, but it just feels really thick. Um, and this is pretty general, but I just want to say that I have noticeably higher levels of mental clarity and long-term focus. Um, just going about my day, um, I've noticed that I've been able to increase the level of productivity as far as like what I'm doing throughout my day. I'm able to start earlier, um, go longer, and get more stuff done throughout my day, um, and do it in a very what's the right word? Um, I'm just able. Yeah, I don't really have anything I guess specific to say on it, but it's just something I personally noticed, just like a much higher level of mental clarity. And then I work a knock shift where I stay up pretty much all night. And in the past, I've noticed that I sometimes get so tired at the end of the night that I start to just kind of give up mentally and just start going like, oh, I'm way too tired to do this, and I start really, really dragging, and it just prolongs my ability to leave work. And lately, even if I'm fasting and I'm feeling tired and don't want to be there, I'm just able to put myself in a mindset to where I can um, get through my entire shift and not have it drag on and you know, be as miserable. Um, and I know other people have talked about similar experiences. Um, I wanted to touch on accountability on the Mucusless Diet Healing System. Early in my transition, I really struggled to adhere to the system when other people um, weren't around. For example, I might go over, hang out with a friend all day, and be mucusless and only eat a few pieces of fruit, and just feel really strong in my ability not to cheat. But for me, when I get alone, is when I have trouble not overdoing the mucus foods and just um, breaking down and eating just garbage. I mean, like earlier in my transition, there were times where I would try to hold off on eating certain foods, but over a period of time, it would just build and build and build, and then I might go eat 4 donuts and feel horrible for days. Um, and so I guess that's just learning too, and understanding the transition better and how long it really takes. Um, and over time, my cravings have decreased dramatically to the point where I don't even really crave sweets anymore. Um, but yeah, back to the accountability piece. Um, so for me now, this healing system is becoming much more serious and a much more important part of my life. And accountability, such as um, the group on Facebook and talking with people, um, being comfortable to talk to people about the healing system in person, like my own personal life, and then just talking with other people as far as their experiences go, and watching the videos has given me a higher level of accountability, just because I want to take this thing I personally want to take this thing very serious, and holding yourself accountable, or holding myself accountable, has been really good in not falling back and going back to the mucus pus forming foods. Um, and the more people I talk to, the more they know of what I'm doing, the more it drives me to keep doing this thing, especially when I see so many benefits from it. But that's just another level that's really aided in my transition. So yeah, if you're struggling, um, around people that don't necessarily know or maybe might be like uncomfortable with what you're doing, um, finding like a support group or other practitioners can definitely be a huge benefit as far as I found. And then it was kind of funny. I woke up this morning and saw Professor Spira's new video about why I fast on Thanksgiving, and I was like, huh, I'm like a day and a half into a fast. That's kind of cool. Um, and he asked us to touch on the different body types. And as you guys can probably see, um, maybe, well, I'm skinny. I'm like 6'4.5", 150, 155 pounds right now. And so I'm uric acid body type. Um, and that's probably why I've had so many issues with my joints, is because I don't store the mucus and pus as fat, but rather as acids and toxins and other waste um, that would have a greater detrimental impact on the joints and the tissues and the blood system. Um, and for me, I noticed I had a huge issue with digestion, and I still do. Um, I noticed that when I get really heavy into the leafy greens or the kale and the raw mucusless salads, they don't digest very well, and they like really plug me up. And so I've noticed people talking about uric acid body types needing more of the green juices, the mineral salts that will really help break up all the initial waste inside the system, um, and really help remove and cool the acids in the body. So yeah, like the leafy greens definitely help balance your pH levels really well, just because a uric acid body type will naturally be more acidic in nature, because they're storing um, all their toxins as acids and waste inside the body. Um, so with my lack of digestion and still seeing a lot of the um, the issues I probably need to overcome before getting heavier into strictly fruit dieting, I want to go back, get heavier into green juicing with raw salads, and see if that affects the way my body digests the salads. Um, and that's just another part of the transition, seeing what works for you, experiencing something one way and then trying it a different way, and being conscious of the results. And I do recommend writing this stuff down. I mean, I have a journal I write in all the time. It's not only the Mucusless Diet Healing System, but just other stuff in general too. And the last part of this video is going to be continuing with the transition and how I was at yoga class a couple days ago and just realized that yoga in itself is a transitional healing system, and just the similarities between yoga and the Mucusless Diet Healing System. I, for one, think it's one of the most conducive forms of physical exercise, especially with the Mucusless Diet Healing System, as far as what I've personally experienced. But as far as their similarities go, with the Mucusless Diet Healing System, Arnold Ehret, Professor Spira, and others talk about a very slow progression according to your physiology, and to not try to jump ahead in your transition and try to maintain like a cleaner base level when your physiology's down here still. Um, and what I mean by that is, I mean, you can't just jump into strictly eating raw foods and stay on them. Or, as Professor Spear always talks about, you can't just read the book and go, I'm going to be mucusless, and now I'm mucusless and never eat mucus again. Um, you've got to systematically change your physiology. And so that just totally reminds me of yoga. In yoga, you don't try to jump into some pose that for the next step of some pose when you aren't even comfortable with the previous step. You're not going to push your body beyond what it's capable of doing, and then consistently trying to do that, or going from not being able to do a bridge, then trying to do a wheel pose. It just doesn't make sense, and I think that's kind of how we have to look at the transition itself. You need to recognize what your base level is and be conscious of how that base progresses. So say when we fast, for example, our base might be here, but the level we're currently at's up here, and the goal from that fast is to eliminate some of the old waste. So we may barely bring up our base level just a little bit, and then we come back down. And then when we fast, get into heavier levels of cleanliness, our base level might come up a little bit, but we gotta come back down to it. And on another note, you don't want to dip down below it either. So being able to recognize that base with both yoga and the Mucusless Diet Healing System is very important. Just because it is all so specific to your individual physiology and what you're currently going through. And then, like, once again, in yoga, it's not going to be beneficial to do a posture that you get nothing out of as far as like a stretch or a sensation. It needs to fit your own needs. And when you go to yoga classes, or if you do, you'll notice that the teacher might say, I might be personally doing this position in this manner, but that doesn't mean that you should be doing it in this manner. I'm giving you guidance as far as what you potentially can do, but that does not mean that you should be following what I'm doing. And I think that's where Arnold Ehret kind of comes from, is that he lays out a system, but it's our job to find where we fall into that system. And so I hope that my personal experiences have helped you guys out a little bit. I'm in Eugene, Oregon. If you guys want to get in touch with me, just leave a comment. I would love to start a support group. I just had somebody get a hold of me up in Portland. I think we're going to do a video chat pretty soon. And so I think by building a local community with people that are practicing, we can just take this thing even further. And have a good day. Take care, guys.